Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about innovation and the various different approaches that companies use for innovation. And a lot of what I'm going to speak about in this lecture is based upon a body of research that has been done by several different individuals. So it's available out there if you're interested to talk about it or learn about it in more detail. But I'm just trying to give you sort of a high level approach here to again get you to think about different ways to innovate, different ways to grow your business. So let's dive into the first slide. So let's talk about three sort of high level, this is a 30,000 foot view of sort of approaches to innovating in a business. So one is called sort of competency based. And that focuses on how can we build on the capabilities and assets that we already have. So remember in the previous talk, the one just prior to this, we talked about assessing your current business, so or taking stock. So if you've done that, you now have a good idea of what your capabilities are and what your assets are. So the question is, how can you use those to enter new businesses or markets? So this is, as someone might say, playing to your strength and building upon the things that you already do really well and exploiting those in the marketplace. And again, one of the key words here is distinctive, right? There are certain things that every business has to have. So those are like, they don't really matter. You got to have them to survive, but they don't really make you distinctive. So think about the things that are distinctive. We talked about that also a little bit in the previous lecture. Next thing, next kind of high level view or approach to this is looking at our customers. So what can our customers tell us? What do our customers' behavior tell us about their unmet needs? So what things are they not happy with? Are there things that we can do that would improve the customer experience? Those of you who took the fall entrepreneurship course, you know we spent a fair amount of time, and one of the projects we did there was we had students go to a grocery store and just observe and look around and see various different ways in which the customer shopping experience can be improved. So it's very important to study your existing customers. So existing customers. And you also want to study people who are not your customers, the ones who are customers of your competitors or a space in which you want to grow into. Because you have to be a little bit careful with existing customers. Again, let me go back to Kodak, right? If Kodak would have went out to their existing film customers and said, hey, are you interested in this crude digital camera? Everyone said no, doesn't have enough resolution. We're not interested in that at all. So Kodak's conclusion was, we'll just keep developing the film business. Okay, so you want to be a little bit careful with your existing customers. Whereas if Kodak would have gone to people who were not their film customers, but maybe customers doing other things and say, hey, can you use this digital thing in some way? We know it doesn't have the resolution of film, but there may be applications where the resolution and quality of film is not important. There are other parameters that these digital cameras have that may be very important. So just be careful not to go just to existing customers, but also find some new customers and talk to them as well. Another sort of high-level approach here is what's going on in the changes in the business environment. So you can talk about a couple of different things here. Let's just take one big fad right now, the whole Bitcoin thing, right? And cryptocurrencies. That's clearly making business opportunities. It's very early. Nobody knows how that's going to shake out. Might be big opportunities, but also big risk. And I'm not talking about investing in Bitcoin, but I'm talking about the business opportunities that, a new trend like Bitcoin can make. So trends are very important. Sometimes the trends are demographic, right? People, think about all the folks who left north of the Mason-Dixon line and moved south because the warmer weather, because of lower taxes, etc. There was a whole bunch of reasons. So that's one thing, is demographics. That also includes aging, right? So there's a big wave of baby boomers, and there's sort of an explosion right now if you look around at senior housing and assisted living places that's taking advantage of that trend of large population of baby boomers who are going to need all sorts of services. There's also various different things that you can think about. Just another example is energy, right? That's been around for a while, but trends going on in industry, energy, battery technology is another one, right? So battery technology keeps improving and keeps developing better and better. And so maybe there's something you could take advantage there. Let me talk about another one. So they recently widened the Panama Canal so bigger ships can go through. So all of a sudden there's a market for shipbuilders to build bigger ships, right? Probably means more containers. Might mean fewer crew members, but bigger ships, new ships, bigger capacity, more containers, bigger ports to help unload them. So all of these sort of mega trends can play an important role. Okay, let's take a look at some very specific approaches now. So now we're going to go through 5 different sort of methods or patterns, as the published papers call them, of innovation. So one of them is generally characterized as the subtraction method. So what does that mean? So let's take a look at what way it's characterized is, and the way, let me just give you a little foundation here. The way these various different patterns have come to be known is people have studied various different products and services, and they've seen how one thing has morphed into another, and then they sort of put them into various different categories, and they came up with these 5 different categories or patterns. That's what academics do. The value in that is it codifies some of those things going on, and it gives you sometimes a way, or helps to give you a way of thinking about them. So let's take a look at the subtraction method. So what this says is you basically make a list of the essential components to a product or service, and then remove one of those and see if it could possibly add value, meaning giving you a new product. So some examples: remove a bicycle's rear wheel and you get an exercise bike, right? So who would have thought of that? Remove water from soup, you get instant soup. Remove the frames from glasses, you get contacts. The Sony Walkman, prior to that, all tape recorders, i.e. the word recorder, could play back and record. Well, if you wanted the record function, you had to have a lot of circuitry, you had to have several different components, but Sony really wanted to make something small that you could walk around with. So they said, you know what, maybe people won't mind having something that they can put in their pocket, and they're not going to record, they're just going to listen to. Started a huge revolution. So this is one way of thinking about it. You can maybe come up with some of your own examples. So removing something, first of all, make the list of the various essential elements and components, remove one, and see if without that you now can have a new product or a new service. Okay, let's move on to a next pattern. So this one is called division. So again, you take an existing product and you make a list of all the various different elements of it or components. You take something out, but now you put it someplace else or you change it. So an example here is remote control, right? So the channel selector used to be built into the TV. They removed it from the TV, so I didn't have to get off the couch to change channels, right? So that's quite innovative, right? And that's the only way you can buy TVs these days. Believe it or not, the original computer printers didn't have replaceable ink cartridges. You had to fill them. So now they figured out a way of, let's take the ink cartridge, make it a separate consumable piece, and it's actually the place where the printer companies make money. Think about boarding passes for getting on an airplane. Um, I can certainly remember the days where you had to go to a travel agent, or they would mail it to you, but they would write you a paper ticket, and you needed that ticket to get on the airplane. And now you just have this piece of paper that's printed on a computer. So again, taking a list, subtracting something out, and then seeing if you have value in moving that function someplace else. So instead of the travel agent printing the ticket or writing the ticket, I print it. Still works. Okay, so let's move on to another one. This next one is called multiplication, and it involves copying a component while changing it in some way. So here's some examples. Training wheels on a children's bicycle, right? A bicycle has 2 wheels. Well, if I add 2 more small wheels to it, now all of a sudden I have a bicycle that somebody can learn how to ride on. Picture-in-picture TVs. Okay, so instead of just having one picture, I now have 2 pictures. Or the big explosion in multiple blade shaving systems, right? Razors for many, many years just had 1 blade. Now all of a sudden Gillette came out with the twin blade. They added another blade. Started a whole revolution. Now I think you can buy 4 or 5 blades. Double-sided tape, right? Now this is one of those you got to think that was a mistake, right? Somehow in the factory they coated both sides of the tape with the adhesive, and somebody said, oh crap, what are we going to do with this? But somebody else said, this might actually be another new product for us. So again, this is sort of taking existing elements or characteristics of your product or service and copying them, maybe changing them slightly, but seeing if it adds an opportunity for a new product or service. Again, this is all tied to growing your business, growing your enterprise. Let's check out another one. So this one is just sort of the opposite. This is task unification. This brings together certain tasks into one. Samsonite used this to expand its business into the college backpack market. Right? They were creative. They came up with a new set of straps and location that helped alleviate shoulder pain and back pain. But they weren't in the backpack business. They were in a suitcase business, right? But they took that expertise there and applied it to the backpack business. I think, to me, a real great example of this task unification is Odor Eater socks, right? They keep your feet warm and they also deodorize, right? So take 2 separate things, right? Combine them into one product. Facial moisturizers now have sunscreen protection, right? Lip balm or your chap lipstick stuff now also has sun protection in it. So these things are combining things to give you your product let's go back to using that word distinctive, a distinctive place in the marketplace. Let's go on to another one. So this one is called attribute dependency. And what this one does is it takes 2 or more attributes and puts them together in sort of a new way. So here's some examples. The best way to describe this one for me is sort of through examples. So windshield wipers that change speed as the amount of rain changes. So you don't have to do it, right? So it takes some sensor that somehow can measure the amount of rain, combines it with a windshield wiper, right, to then make a windshield wiper that automatically adjusts. Now, I'm sure the person who invented the rain sensor wasn't thinking of that in the beginning. Maybe it was some agricultural application they were working on, or some other manufacturing or process control sensor, and they combined it this way. Or headlights that automatically dim for oncoming cars, right? There's some sort of sensor up there in someplace in your car that can sense an oncoming headlight, automatically dims your headlights. Smartphones that provide information depending upon what your location is. So when you search for restaurants, it searches within a 10-mile radius of where you're located, as opposed to some larger radius that's very useless for you. So this is called attribute dependency. And again, it's sort of another way of thinking about these things, and can help you, after you've assessed your business, look at potential new opportunities. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so let's just take a summary of these 5 different patterns of innovation. There's nothing biblical about these 5 patterns. It's just a piece of research that has been done to characterize them. What I find is that it's helpful for me to think about these things as I'm trying to grow my business, as I'm trying to innovate my products. And a lot of the examples we gave were products, but you can think about services as well. So don't focus just on products, right? So think of back, you know, in the days of not that long ago, grocery stores didn't have deli counters because there used to be butchers. It was a separate store. And then the grocery store, which was just selling produce and milk and detergent and those types of things, decided, hey, you know what? We're going to have our own deli counter inside of our store. And all of a sudden, boom, new opportunity. Same thing happened with pharmacies, right? Almost every Price Chopper, Hannaford's, etc. has a pharmacy inside. They have banks inside. So there's many different ways of taking your business and growing it and expanding it. So don't think just about products, but think about services. So hopefully this gave you some insight as to some various different ways of thinking about this. And I think hopefully, again, it will be useful in your project. So thank you very much. And that ends this session.